Welcome to the Happy for No Reason workshop. This is based on a book called Happy for No Reason, The 7 Steps to Being Happy from the Inside Out by Marcy Shimoff, presented by myself, Pam Burke. I want to welcome you and thank you for joining me today. Let's get started with a quick question. How many people wake up and want to have a happy day? I know I do. Put up your hand if you do. I have a feeling that not many people wake up and say, gee, I hope I have a terrible day today. So you know what? Happiness is something that people often say they look for in life. And I think that as humans, we've been doing that since we've lived in caves. Over 2,000 years ago, the famous Greek philosopher Aristotle said that happiness is the meaning and purpose of life. And he said this too, which I think fits in perfectly with what we're going to do today. Aristotle said, happiness is a state of activity. Remember that as we go on today. I want to share with you some stats and some bad news to start, and then we're going to switch to the good news. Okay, so I just want you to have an idea that there's a lot of unhappy people right now. In fact, only 30% of people say that they are feeling deeply happy. And the World Health Organization, by the year 2020, and unfortunately this has come true, they predicted that depression would be second only to heart disease as a global health issue. According to a report published in 2016, 48% of Ontario high school students indicate that they have moderate to serious to severe symptoms of anxiety and depression. And with COVID, we've had even a worsening of these things. In fact, 77% of Canadian adults report feeling so-called negative emotions since the onset of the pandemic. And in fact, 50% of Canadians aged 18 to 24 and almost half of all students report a decline in their mental health since the onset of COVID-19. So now more than ever, I feel it's really important that we talk about all of this stuff. And for you scientists out there, the good news. And the good news is that science has cracked the code to happiness. Scientific researchers have found that no matter what happens in your life, good or bad, you tend to return to a fixed range of happiness, kind of like your weight set point where the scale sort of hovers around the same numbers, up or down a few here or there. So does your happiness set point. It's going to remain the same unless, and here's the important part, you do something on purpose to change that. Science shows, they know that happiness comes from our genetics, but only 50% of it. So mom and dad pass on half of our happiness. Only 10% actually comes from our circumstances in life, like our wealth, whether we have it or we don't, our family situation, our job, etc. The important part here and the happy good news is that 40% is determined by our habits of thoughts, feelings, words, and actions. And so you can change your set point. You can change your happiness levels. In fact, leading brain researcher, Dr. Richard Davidson from the University of Wisconsin, he says that based on what we know now about the plasticity of the brain, we can learn to be happy or compassionate like a skill. It's a skill that's no different from learning, say, the piano or how to play a sport. Anything you practice that you can get better at is a skill, and we can therefore train our brains to be happy. I think we should put that on the t-shirt. Train our brains. We can train our brains, and we can do it. So today we are going to do 3 things. We're going to be inspired to live a more happy, purposeful, fun-filled life. We are going to learn about some of the terminology and some practical tools that you can use to immediately raise your happiness level. And the third thing I would like you to do today is to have some fun. So we're going to cover happiness continuum. We're going to cover happiness set point, and I'm going to give you a few activities that you can do and practices that you can take away from today for next week. When we get back together, you'll practice with your family, friends, whatever. Before we really get going, I just want to tell you a little bit about why I'm here and what my happiness story is. So when I was your age, when I was a teenager, I had a really easy life. I mean, my parents were strict and that's okay. But my family life was great, loving family. I was good at sports. I did fine at school. And I really didn't have any life challenges to have to really significantly deal with. I wasn't like super happy, but I certainly wasn't unhappy. So I was just, a regular run of the mill teenager. However, when I got out of high school, adult life hit me hard. I found out at the age of 22 that my mom had lung cancer and she died within a month. That was very, very hard. I also was in a committed relationship that was very unhappy. And there was a lot of crying and tears throughout my years with my children's father. So I have two lovely children, but their father and I separated when they were very young. And so I was a young 20-something single mom without a mom of her own to help guide me. And I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't have any skills. I didn't have any practices. I didn't even have this understanding. And for 15 to 20 years, I was in an unhappy place. I was in a funk. I didn't know how to get out of it. And I'm here today so that, whether you need to use these tools now because you're not very happy, or it's good for, I practice them all the time, even now that I'm feeling much happier than I ever have. I feel that it's something that the schools don't teach. We don't have the curriculum for it in the schools, and it deserves to be there. You guys are going to be able to use these practices throughout your whole life. And when adult life hits you hard, I hope that you have a lot of knowledge and skills in this area to keep your life as happy as it can be. So let's get started and have a great day. Thank you so much for being here.